So after we press the grapes and we have our freshly pressed Sauvignon Blanc, freshly pressed Riesling, and so on, it'll go into our tank.
Okay.
And the first thing we do is we chill it because it can still be kind of warm around harvest time outdoors. And we want to refrigerate the juice immediately. It's just like getting juice at the supermarket.
Yes.
You don't need to put it in a refrigerator. And that's because almost all juice has sugar in it. And that sugar will eventually ferment and we turn it into wine. But we don't want it to ferment right away. First we want it to settle. And so we clarify the juice so that the fermentation is nice and clean.
Okay.
And so that's exactly what we do. We chill it, we let it settle, and then we rack the clear juice. Rack means you transfer it from one tank to another, the clear juice, and then we add the yeast. For most of the wines, we add yeast. Some wines we don't add yeast, and they begin to ferment naturally. I don't really like the word natural in this case, because what's really happening, the better adjective would be spontaneous or ambient. The yeast comes from somewhere,
okay.
and the juice begins to ferment. And alcoholic fermentation is this really magical thing. The yeast begin to feed on sugar, and they create heat, CO2, and alcohol.
And at that point of fermentation, is it still chill?
Yes, good question. So as it's fermenting, we set the thermostat.
Okay.
So if I don't want it to go above 60 degrees Fahrenheit or about 15 or 16 degrees Celsius, the refrigeration,
okay.
it'll kick in and it'll keep it at that temperature, or keep it from going above that temperature.
Throughout the entire fermentation process?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
how long does that take?
For white wine, it can be 6 to 8 weeks because of the chilling.
Okay.
Because the rate of fermentation is very much related to the temperature. The warmer it is, the yeast are happier. They grow and multiply, and they ferment faster. And so when you chill it, you're putting on the brakes. You're slowing it down. And we do that deliberately because when you have a very vigorous alcoholic fermentation, you can lose aroma.
Okay.
And you can make a wine that's more, less delicious, basically.
Yes.
It's going to be...
That's where the patience comes in.
Yes, that's one example. There's many opportunities to be patient. Yeah.
In the whole process.
Throughout the process, it requires patience. Yeah.
And what's next after?
And so after this, if it's a white wine, it'll get filtered. We have this fancy piece of machinery over here with the 3 big columns. That's called a cross-flow filter. And what's great about this machine, we only need to filter the wine once, and then it's ready to be bottled. Whereas the old filtering technologies, you'd have to filter again and again, and that was less, it was a little bit more detrimental to wine quality. So this really helps preserve the wine quality by only being used once. Yeah, so this is probably the best room in the house because all we have down here are barrels full of wine. And so in the case of all of our red wine, after we press the wine, because remember I said with the reds, you ferment the grapes with skins with the juice, and that's where you get the color from. And then you finally press. After that, the wine comes down into these barrels.
Okay.
And so, as a matter of fact, all we have down here is red wine. We do have some white wine in barrels upstairs as well, but down here it's just red wine. And for example, this is our 2022 assemblage that's going to be bottled next week. And so at that point, we pump it out of the barrel. It goes up through the stainless steel pipe over here, back upstairs to where we were. And then we'll bottle it from there out of a tank.
2022?
Yes. The wine is from 2022, so it's been 16, 17 months.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
It's been sitting here for a while.
Yeah. It'll almost be 18 months by the time we get it out next week,
But how are you able to tell that it's ready?
Yeah, that's a good question. That really becomes a matter of taste.
Okay.
And so in my case, I was 10 years old when my parents started, so I've been tasting our wine since our very first vintage in 1990. And I learned winemaking from my father. And so between my father and I, we just have a good sense by tasting it, is the wine ready? Now, what does that mean? That means, what are we looking for when we taste it? I'm looking that the tannins are not too harsh, that they're soft enough, and that the wine has, in wine we have all these different adjectives like approachable. Like it's when you taste it, it doesn't taste too austere, it doesn't taste too astringent. It tastes relatively smooth and velvety and plush and delicious. Now, keeping in mind that this is a very young red wine, But even for a young wine, so younger red wines will taste more, a little bit more austere, but we already have the sense that it's going to be enjoyable even upon bottling. But it'll definitely benefit from age.
Is this a dry wine or?
Yes, all of the reds we make are dry.
Okay.
Dry meaning there's no sugar left, they're completely dry.
Okay.
But as we walked down,
Yeah.
I felt the temperature.
Yes,
change.
yes, it's nice
Tell
and
me a little
yeah,
bit
yeah.
about the
So
temperature
where
here.
we are now down here, this is a subterranean, an underground cellar. It was an old potato cellar because the whole place used to be an old potato barn attached to a potato farm. And so when my parents renovated and rebuilt the old barn in 1990, they excavated down here to create this space deliberately to have, underground barrel storage because it stays nice and cool. It's insulated by the earth. And this is a great temperature for wine. The best temperature for aging wine, like in a bottle or in a barrel, for a long period of time is in the 50s Fahrenheit or between 10 and 15 Celsius.
Okay.
What I can tell though is that Mother Nature
Yeah.
definitely has to assist a lot.
Yes,
with
absolutely,
This process.
100%. And what we're producing here is it's a natural product. It's a biological product. It's made from grapes. It's fermented grape juice.
So it's healthy.
It's healthy. It is. We can get into that. It's healthy as wine, but it's very healthy when it's fermenting. That's a real probiotic. It's living yeast cells, and that's a delicious drink, and it's a very special drink because you can only have it while the wine is fermenting, and you can't bottle it like that because it's a dynamic beverage. It's changing hour by hour, day by day. There's more. The yeast are eating more sugar.
Yes.
And so the next day there's more alcohol than there was before and less sugar, so it keeps changing, but it's delicious and
That
it's
is
full
so
of
interesting. I always thought it would be edible, being
Yeah.
able to consume only at the point of it being bottled.
No, you can definitely consume it while it's fermenting, and if you do that, you're consuming living yeast cells, which is a probiotic. I mean, it's very healthy. Okay, so the final step in the process is bottling, and we're actually getting ready to bottle tomorrow. So in preparation for bottling, we sterilize the bottling machine with steam. And that's what's going on right now. We're actually just finishing, but there was steam flowing through here. You saw it earlier. And the steam will kill bacteria and yeast. And this is all stainless steel, so it'll be totally sterile when we bottle tomorrow. And so what happens when we're bottling, the bottles come in here. This part of the machine will give the bottle a quick rinse with water. And then this here will inject gas into the bottle. And by gas, I mean like a cylinder like this that has argon or nitrogen so that there's no oxygen.
Okay.
Because the next thing that happens is it gets filled with wine. And oxygen is really the enemy of fine wine. So we're trying to protect the wine from oxygen. That's why you need to seal it with a
Yes.
cork or a screw cap so it doesn't oxidize over the years. If, sometimes it doesn't last years in somebody's fridge, it's only days or weeks. But if it's going to last for years, you need a nice tight seal. So most of what we do today is with the screw cap. We also can do cork. This machine can do cork or screw cap. But most of what we're doing...
Does it make a difference which,
It does...
in terms of it,
yes.
it doesn't affect the wine quality?
The short answer is yes, but in a way that doesn't matter too much, especially if you're drinking the wines young, which is what most people do. But the screw cap, the key thing to understand with the screw cap is that it's clean, because the cork can actually spoil the wine. It's a small percentage, but sometimes you get a wine that's a little bit, doesn't smell right. It's more of a smell than a taste, and it's due to the cork. And you saw everything we do here to get to this point. It's a little bit crazy to take a chance on a cork that came from Portugal or Spain to seal our Long Island wine, and that cork could ruin the wine. And so
After that long process.
Yeah, after this whole long
having
process,
unmade
exactly. And so with the screw cap, we guarantee the quality and consistency of the wine in a way that you simply cannot with natural cork. And of course, it's easy to open. You can open it by hand. You don't need a special tool. Look, I'm a wine lover. I'd be lying if I said I didn't love pulling a cork, and we love hearing that sound. But just like quitting smoking is good for your health, you've lost something. If you're a smoker, you've lost your identity. It's not cool anymore.
Yeah.
And if you're a sommelier, like, it's just not as cool to use a screw cap, but it's just like quitting smoking is good for your health. This is good for the wine. Okay, so when we finish our tour, we bring our VIP tour experience up here to our balcony overlooking the vineyard. And you can see from up here, you get a really nice view of the property.
It is beautiful.
Yeah. And this is what we call like our home farm. This is the original property that my parents started to plant in 1983.
Wow.
And over the years, we've acquired and planted other properties. So at Pamanac, we have 4 main properties that we farm. This is the original one.
Okay.
And we also own Palmer Vineyards, which is another vineyard just north of here. So we have 5 main properties that we farm all together. It's about 130 acres of vineyards altogether. It's a lot of work.
But something amazing about
Yeah.
this specific location is 100% solar powered.
Yes. So we put these solar panels up in 2009. And then you can kind of see in the back there's 2 barns.
Yes.
Those are covered in solar panels as well. So we're now 100% solar powered. Well, we're open 7 days a week year round. And, we talked about harvest time in September and October. That's a great time to visit. But really any time of year, we're here, we're open, and then folks can come and visit and taste some wine.
And
Yeah.
how do they book to secure a tour?
If you're a bigger group, we definitely year. recommend booking in advance. But if you're a smaller group or just a couple, you can just, you don't need a reservation. But you can book in advance online on our website. We have a link that says click here to make a reservation.
Okay, sounds awesome. So you guys, if you're in the area, come on down. It's going to be a treat.
Definitely.
In the area,